Most people think living paycheck to paycheck means they don't make enough money. It sounds logical if there isn't enough money coming in. Of course, it's going to disappear quickly. But something strange happens when you actually look at the numbers. Millions of people earning good incomes still feel broke every month. The paycheck arrives, there's a brief moment of relief, and then somehow the money fades away faster than expected. Bills get paid, small purchases happen throughout the week, and before long the account balance is back near zero. The frustrating part is that most people can't clearly explain where the money went, they just know it's gone. And that's exactly why so many people remain stuck in the paycheck to paycheck cycle for years, sometimes even decades. The problem isn't always income. The real problem is the system people unknowingly follow every month. Most people don't realize they are participating in a pattern that practically guarantees their money will disappear. The pattern looks simple. First comes payday. That moment feels like a reset button. Suddenly there's money in the account again, and the pressure from the previous week fades away because of that psychological relief. Spending feels safe again. A few small purchases don't feel like a big deal. Maybe there's dinner out, a few online orders, a subscription renewal, or a spontaneous purchase that feels justified after a long week. None of these things seem dangerous individually, but when you add them together, something powerful happens. The paycheck slowly dissolves into dozens of small decisions that were never really planned. This is what psychologists sometimes call the paycheck illusion. When people receive income in predictable cycles, they begin to treat that cycle as permission to reset their behavior. The arrival of the paycheck feels like a fresh start, even if the previous one disappeared quickly. Because of that feeling, spending decisions become emotionally driven rather than intentional. Instead of asking whether something fits into a long-term financial plan, people ask a simpler question: can I afford this right now? And if the account balance looks healthy in that moment, the purchase feels justified. But this mindset creates a hidden trap. Because every purchase seems affordable individually, the overall impact becomes invisible. You might spend $20 here, $15 there, maybe $40 on something that felt convenient at the time. Each purchase feels small enough to ignore. But over the course of a month, those small decisions quietly consume hundreds of dollars. By the time the next paycheck arrives, the money has already been allocated to dozens of things that felt harmless in the moment. Another reason people stay stuck in the paycheck cycle is something called lifestyle inflation. This happens when income increases but spending rises at the same pace. At first it seems reasonable. When people earn more money, they naturally want to improve their quality of life. Maybe they move into a nicer apartment, upgrade their car, start ordering food more often, or subscribe to more services that make life easier. None of these choices are inherently bad. The problem is that they gradually redefine what normal spending looks like, matter over time. What once felt like a luxury begins to feel like a necessity. The nicer apartment becomes the standard. The weekly takeout becomes routine. The streaming subscriptions, software services, and convenience apps slowly pile up. As a result, even though income may increase, the gap between income and expenses never actually grows. The extra money disappears into a more expensive lifestyle before it ever has a chance to build savings. What makes lifestyle inflation particularly dangerous is that it happens slowly. People rarely wake up one day and decide to dramatically increase their spending. Instead, it happens through dozens of small upgrades that feel reasonable at the time. Maybe it starts with a better phone plan, then a nicer gym membership, then food delivery a few times per week. Each upgrade feels like a reward for working hard, but collectively they reshape the entire financial structure of a person's life. There's also another factor that quietly keeps people stuck: invisible spending. This includes purchases that are so small or automatic that they barely register in our minds. Subscriptions are one of the biggest examples. Many people have dozens of subscriptions running simultaneously, from streaming platforms to software services to monthly memberships. Because these payments happen automatically, they rarely receive attention. The money simply leaves the account each month without triggering a conscious spending decision. Small purchases can be even more deceptive. A coffee here, a snack there, a quick online purchase that seemed useful at the time. These transactions rarely feel significant in the moment, but they accumulate quickly over the course of a year. Small daily purchases can add up to thousands of dollars. The challenge is that our brains aren't very good at tracking this kind of slow accumulation. We notice large purchases immediately, but we tend to ignore patterns made up of smaller ones. Another powerful force that keeps people trapped in the paycheck cycle is dopamine-driven spending. Modern technology has made purchasing incredibly easy and incredibly stimulating. With just a few taps on a phone, almost anything can be ordered instantly. The process is fast, convenient, and emotionally rewarding. Every time we buy something new, our brain releases a small burst of dopamine. That chemical reward reinforces the behavior, making us more likely to repeat it in the future. Over time, this creates a feedback loop. When people feel bored, stressed, or tired, spending becomes a quick way to create a moment of excitement or relief. Online shopping, food delivery, and impulse purchases all provide small emotional boosts. The problem is that these boosts are temporary. The excitement fades quickly, but the money that was spent is gone permanently. Because of this pattern, many people slowly train themselves to associate spending with emotional comfort. Whenever they feel frustrated or exhausted, buying something feels like a solution. The paycheck cycle then becomes a recurring opportunity to repeat this behavior. Each payday restores the ability to chase those small bursts of dopamine again. Breaking out of this cycle requires a shift in how people interact with their money. The first step is recognizing that the paycheck itself should not act as permission to spend freely. Instead, payday should become the moment when financial priorities are established. This means deciding in advance where the money will go before spending decisions begin to happen automatically. One effective approach is to delay discretionary spending immediately after receiving income. Instead of treating payday as a spending opportunity, it can be treated as a planning moment. Bills are handled first, savings are moved automatically, and only then does spending begin. This small shift changes the entire structure of the paycheck cycle. Another important step is making spending more visible. When people regularly review their transactions, patterns begin to emerge. Expenses that once felt invisible suddenly become obvious. A few subscriptions here, frequent delivery orders there, small online purchases scattered throughout the month. Seeing these patterns clearly often creates a powerful moment of awareness. Once spending becomes visible, people can begin making intentional adjustments. Some subscriptions might be canceled, certain habits might be reduced. Spending decisions that were once automatic become conscious choices. Over time, this creates space between income and expenses that didn't exist before. What's important to understand is that escaping the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle rarely happens through one dramatic change. Instead, it happens through dozens of small adjustments that gradually reshape financial behavior. Each time someone chooses to delay a purchase, cancel an unnecessary expense, or prioritize saving first, they weaken the cycle that once kept them stuck. And eventually, something interesting happens. The paycheck begins to feel different. Instead of disappearing quickly, it lasts longer. Instead of creating temporary relief, it becomes a tool for building stability. The constant stress of watching the balance approach zero begins to fade. The truth is that most people never escape paycheck to paycheck because they believe the solution lies entirely in earning more money. While higher income can certainly help, it doesn't automatically fix the underlying patterns that cause money to disappear. Without changing those patterns, even larger paychecks can vanish just as quickly. But once someone understands how the paycheck cycle actually works, the entire system becomes easier to control. Spending becomes more intentional. Savings become more consistent, and the feeling of constantly being one paycheck away from financial stress slowly begins to disappear. Because escaping the paycheck cycle isn't really about income. It's about understanding the small habits, invisible spending patterns, and psychological triggers that quietly shape how money moves through our lives every single month. I'm Brandon Invests, and if this video helped you understand the psychology of finance, subscribe for more.